All right, we are live. Welcome. February 18th, 2025. This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in lovely Marion, Michigan. Not so lovely today. And I think that's what we want to talk about tonight is something that comes around every single year. And I know it's coming. And I'm doing a lot better with it now. And I think it's worth talking about for sure. But that's cabin fever. Cabin fever. And we want to talk about that tonight. And we also want to talk about Seed Savers Day, which is the next thing that's coming. And that's going to be in May. All right. That's a ways out. March, April, May. Last year we had a real good time. It's a day when we open up the farm and encourage people to come and bring starts or seeds or chicks or whatever it is they're doing. But it's more a day of fellowship. You know, it's the end of the winter, beginning of the growing season. We did it in April for a while, but a couple of times we wound up in the house, and that didn't work out so good. So moved it to May, and last year was super. It was just super. We had a great time. So that's coming. Around here today, I'd like to share kind of a victory. As I've told you every Tuesday, is I milk on Tuesdays with Frank. And so me and Frank headed out the door this morning to milk. And I reported for work at the milk house, which was really nice. It was warm down there. Went out with great gusto. It was about 8 degrees but sunny. And so our spirits were high. And, everything went pretty good. And got all the milk jugged up. Got it moved over into the store because all the milk from today was heading out via the store, people coming to the farm to get it. And a woman came by that is a new customer, just came. Oh, I don't need it in here. Oh, okay. No, you use it in there. Frank was going to bring a kerosene heater in to me in here, but I told him I didn't need it. I've got my coveralls on, so I'm okay. But we stood and talked for a minute, and she's really psyched. It's a young mother. Well, yeah, young. And coming to get milk, and she's real psyched about milk and homesteading and feeding her kids. I think that's her focus more, is feeding her kids. And then another customer showed up. And so they started talking. And then another customer showed up, and I helped her with her milk while these guys talked. And we were there for quite a while. It was an interesting conversation about farming, cows, political climate that's always on people's minds, changes that might be coming, good, bad, indifferent, but very nice time. And so that took up quite a bit of my time. Luckily, I had the wood stove going in the store, so it was fairly warm in there. And then I got back over and cleaned up the milk house, and that was about it. And then I had to jump on the tractor and move snow. So we've been getting snow pretty regularly, just about every day for about the last 5 days. And not big snowfall, but a couple inches at a time. And then blowing. Yesterday it was blowing, so things drifted, and it's fun. It's fun if you're out sliding, but it's getting a little old, right? And very cold, very cold. So 0 degrees, or last night it was like -4. But the victory that I want to share is, you've all been right alongside me as I said, I think we want to start up a dairy. We want to do this. And, there was a lot of steps along the way. A lot of steps along the way. On just talking about this pulls me out of my doldrums of winter. And each step had victories and failures. And then we refined each step to a place where, I showed up there this morning and it was quite cold. It had been very cold last night. The first thing I do is go over to the water. Water comes on, because I need that. I need that to do this. And for a while, we had way more milk than we had customers. And just in the last month, now we have a waiting list. So I am at a place now where I can move to the next step, and that is a couple more cows. And I can get away with that now because we've taken some of our beef cows off the field, processed them, so that's less hay that's being eaten, and then moved and then replaced them with milking cows. There is some holdups there because milk cows are kind of hard to find right now. It seems the ones that we would be looking for, and they've gone up. They've really gone up. But that's a victory because every gallon of milk that we're producing is going to a good home. We're getting a fair exchange for it, and it's making things work here. I was telling a lady today, one of the parties that I was speaking with, I said, well, in this lifestyle, money isn't everything, obviously. But it is a part of it. And it's sort of like a scorecard to see how you're doing. Oh, yeah. And something else that I did today that didn't help me out a whole lot was came up to the house and Jill wanted to show me some financials, of how things were going. And we weren't doing as good as I thought we were. I was feeling like, hey, we are doing good now. And come to find out we weren't doing as good as I thought we were. But Jill being the good person that she is, she was like, well, we got hit on this, we got hit on this and this. Like we had a huge propane bill for the milk house and I wasn't ready for it. And that was because we hadn't finished the insulation on it. And it took time to get that done. It was very intricate, some of it. But I did get it done, and now that's done. And a lot of the places that needed, see, it's an old barn, and it doesn't just fit together. You have to make pieces that fit where they have to go. Like the door, I couldn't just get a door. I had to build a door. And there's a lot that goes into that, and it took time. And to get it so it fits well and makes a good seal, it took time. And there's two doors. There's a door going into it goes to the outside, the main door, and then the door that goes into the milk parlor. And, they had to be done in such a way that it will work for that. So it took time. It's a lot of pieces that had to fit together. The hot water down there, just the water service there. All the electrical had to be done. So it's a lot of things. And, we paid Matt for his help building. And I never would have, I would have, but I wouldn't be as far along as I am now if it weren't for Matt. I'm really thankful for his help and his friendship too. He's a good guy. So, when all the milk goes out the door and you realize, yeah, the direction that we picked was a good one, and I can see adding the next step to it and then possibly the next step after that. But the financial thing was a real hit. No, but you might be noticing I have a different pair of shades on today. These are actually real glasses. Jill's been after me for a long time to go to the optometrist because I'm wearing these Home Depot magnifying glasses for reading. Otherwise, I can't see stuff, stuff like this. I'm holding it out as far as I can, and I'm just barely making it out. And so I had to have these magnifiers, and then I could see it. And then you wind up, taking them off, and your eyes have to focus back again. But these ones are transitional glasses. They are the latest and the greatest, I guess. It's what the optometrist told me. But they enhance my long distance vision. So like now, I can read the chat on here perfectly. And then if I need to look at something up close, I can just hold it down here and I can see that too. So they do everything. And they're made out of ballistic something or other. So they're safety glasses as well. And I do a lot of things like that. And I really want to protect my eyes. I've had a couple of eye injuries in my life that were, it's devastating actually when you have an eye injury. So, I was just using like reading glasses for eye protection, and that's not good. So these ones will fit the bill, and I will be, the plan is that I'll be wearing them all the time. And I got them about a week ago. It would have been last Friday. I got them last Friday, so it's not quite a week. And I went and picked them up. And as soon as I came outside, I tripped on something. And my peripheral vision is kind of blurry, right? So I have to be looking at whatever I want in focus. So that's a little different because I use my peripheral vision a lot. And so that took a little getting used to. But the thing that I noticed the most was when I was driving out, on top of all the snowbanks, there was a bright blue line. Bright blue line. Light blue, but very bright. And I thought, wow, I wonder if that's going to change. That is really distracting because it started to throw my depth perception off. And I just kept going. And then by the time I got about halfway home, when I would come to a place where there was a horizon on the road, and the roads were dark, not black, but dark, there was a yellow line across there. I thought, what's this? I almost kind of slowed down for it, like, hey, there's something there, like a yellow rope or something. And I realized, no, I'm just seeing that. And then there was a black crow, little further down the road. There was a black crow sitting off the side of the road eating something. And he had a bright red line on his back. I went a little further, black mailbox, same thing. So I get home and I come in and I say, I don't know if this is going to work. It's not really working out so far. It doesn't look so good. I could see further, and I noticed that as I was driving, I was not squinting. My eyes were opened up all the way. And for 20, 30 years now, at least, I've been wearing sunglasses. I have Nemesis glasses. I get them at the welding supply store. When I first started getting them, they were $178. They're safety glasses, and they're tinted. And I've been wearing those as sunglasses, and I got really used to them. So even on a day like today, when it wasn't bright sun in the afternoon, I would still put them down. So I would have them up like this all the time. As soon as I come outside, down they go. And I started to think, well, now what am I filtering out that is supposed to come in? I started thinking about that. I don't know why. Where do thoughts come from, I ask you? And I came across something and read it, and then read some more and things like that. And the different light frequencies on the spectrum create different things when they come into our eyes and then stimulate our brains. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to try this. I took my sunglasses off, took them off, still kept them in my truck, but, I'd go reaching for them and I'd say, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And so I think that has something to do with it. It's like the perception of what I see is changing, and I believe it's changing me. Okay, maybe, I don't know. So anyway, the first day I had them, I wore them all day. And there was a couple times when I would walk in and I would do this, and whoa, big difference. Like right now, huge difference. I can see myself, but I'm blurry. Now I can see myself. Huge difference. So I'm not squinting, and so I think they're going to work out okay. And, they serve a couple purposes. I was driving at night last night, and it was way different. And I was working, the kids were at jujitsu, so I was home alone, and I was working, and it got dark. I was cold. So I got in the truck. It was nice and warm, and I could have gone in the house, but I thought, I'm just going to drive a little bit. I'm going to drive around. And because I don't usually do that, I don't just drive around for no good reason. But my perception of what I was seeing was so different that I just kept going. And it was really kind of nice. It was really kind of nice. I drove around for probably 45 minutes, got warmed up, and made it in. So that's what's going on here. And these were part of the financials, because these cost $600. They cost $600. So yeah, that's new. And Jill has our financials broken in two pieces. So there's the house, like the Baker family, and that was okay. And okay in this lifestyle is you don't have people beating on the door. You've got everything covered. And then there was still a little chunk that if we needed it, we could use it. But on the farm side, it didn't look so good. And but what we come to is, we've paid for a lot of labor lately. We've had to get a lot of parts lately, fuel. So there's a lot of things this time of the year, and productivity can be frustrating. Can be, if you let it be frustrating. Like today, I got minimums done, and then I had to go to plowing snow. I had to go to moving snow so I could just move around. And, it's a lot of time on the tractor, and it's cold. My truck is at the shop. It's at John's right now. And I haven't plowed with the truck. I didn't plow with it last year, and I didn't plow with it this year because it needs some love. And hopefully I get that back soon. So if you're listening, John, get on it. Yeah, I had another thing happen today, and this is what made me think about, let's talk about cabin fever and really what it is. Because I think I hear it, people can't contain it. They're like, boy, I'm so sick of winter. And is it really winter? I'm not sure it is. I think it's just inside a lot, not a lot of sunlight, always having to put on and take off a lot of clothes, right, to stay warm, feet cold, hands cold. So winter gets to you after a while, especially in this business. I'm out most of the time. And then we were talking about it at lunch today, and the tendency is when lunch is done, I'm just going to sit here for a minute by the wood stove. But that's dangerous too, because then you can get sleepy and you can't take a nap because then you don't sleep good at night. So I said, I might as well just get on it, get out there and finish it. So I have this situation where my beef cows are down over the hill, and people that have been here, it's probably about 125 yards, and it's downhill to get there. There's a pond there, and I feed the cows there. They're sheltered from the wind, and those are the beef cows. And they don't really want to do much in the wintertime. They just stand there and eat, lay down, stand up, drink. That's it. And they don't swat flies because there's no flies. They're not really phased by a really cold day or a really windy day. It doesn't really phase them. If anything, they will walk over onto the new property and they'll kind of stand in the bushes. That's it. So I knew I was going to have to get hay to them tomorrow, so I needed to make sure that I could get down there. And when I started down the hill, it was hard to tell how much snow there was. It was really hard to tell. And I had made a path down there. I've kept the path open so I can get my tractor down there with a bale on it. And what happened was the sides of the trail that I'd made were probably 3 feet high or 4 feet high. And then all the wind that we got yesterday blew it full, just full. And I should have known, but I didn't used to feed the cows down there. Last winter was the first year that I fed them down there, and we didn't have much snow. A lot of times I was going down there over bare ground. So I just didn't register to me that the snow was really deep. And so I start going down there. I'm going to just drive over the snow. And then on my way back up, I'm going to push some snow. I'm going to doze the snow in front of me. Well, I start down over the hill, and all of a sudden, the tractor is not on the ground. The wheels are riding on the snow, and the back wheels are flopping, plop, 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 plop. And the thing's rocking back and forth, and I'm literally moving. Let's see. I don't even know how to say it, like slower than walking speed, right? And it feels like I'm on water just going through this snow. And I'm looking down, and it's like, oh no. So if I had gotten, and there was no stopping, like if I had stopped, I'd still be there. Well, I'd have been calling John, which was comforting. John Spears Automotive, towing service. Used them before. So that was comforting, but I really didn't want to make that phone call, and I had things to do. And so I just kept going, and it was getting deeper and deeper. And then I crested the hill, and now my speed picks up a little bit, but I'm still on top of the snow. I'm not touching the ground. And I made it to the bottom. So the only thing I could do when I got to the bottom was dig out a big circle, that I could move around in, and then turn around and look back up that hill and think, I'm not going to make it back up there. So I had to start taking a bucket load at a time and backing down and dumping it. Bucket load at a time. Now, right before I went out, Jill said, hey, why don't you try these? And she gave me this packet of hand warmers. And for a minute, I thought, no, I'm not going to, that's gay. I'm not going to do that. But I said, I'll give it a try. And so I took them, put them in. Ooh, that's nice. Nice and warm. And if I hadn't had those, I would have had to probably shut down and come back to the house because my fingertips did get really cold, but my hands stayed, okay. And that took me, I was waiting on Dave Armstead to come to inseminate 2 of my cows. And I keep looking up there to see if he's there, thinking, well, I'll just call him and tell him I'm stuck, and he'll have to do it on his own. But I never did see him. I finally got back up there, and I am cold. And now I've got bib coveralls on. I've got a hoodie on. I've got my real warm, Nanook of the North hat on. I've got my hoodie up over it, and then I've got a jacket on, an Air Force extreme cold weather jacket. So my body is okay. My feet are cold and my hands are cold, and I'm fatigued. So I made it back up, and I called him, and I said, hey, what's going on? And he says, well, I called you a little while ago, and I said, yeah, I know, I got stuck. Well, are you coming? And he said, well, I already came. I said, when? He says, 2 hours ago. I'm like, what? I've been down there that long? And then I look at the time, and it's like almost 5 o'clock. So I came in and got warm while I went to the milk house and got warm. And then I went back out, was able to make a pass down, make it back up, pass down again. Did that about 5 times. And then I finally put a bale on and took it down. Dumped the bale. Then I had to go in with the cows, take the spud bar in and break the ice for them to drink. So it was a long time. But the whole time I'm doing it, I'm thinking, don't be a sissy. There's another word that I like to use a lot, but I'm not going to use it here. Don't be a sissy, because when you get into a tough situation and you're whining about, oh, it's February, it's cold, I'm not getting as much done as I want to get done, all that, you got to remember, it could be a lot worse. It could be a whole lot worse. And I faced it today. That would have been really bad if that had happened. And, as I was doing it, I thought, I can't let this happen again. So when I get my truck back, I'll open it way up. And then as soon as I get snow, a swipe down with the truck and a swipe back up, and I'm good. I won't have a problem with it. But I've been trying to keep up with snow with just my front end loader, and it's 3 times as much time, and you're out in the open. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, well, it's better than a shovel. It's better than a shovel, but I really needed to man up and get the truck into John and get it fixed and stuff. I've just been procrastinating, thinking, well, we won't have that much snow. The last couple winters have not been that difficult, but this one, it is difficult. Some things that I do that have helped me a lot to get through it is think about what I'm going to do in the summer when I don't have as much trouble moving around and I don't have this daily battle with keeping things open. Another thing that's different this year is we got the store running. So in years past, if the driveway was plugged, I didn't worry about it too much. But now I've got people coming up the driveway right away. And so that is one of the first things I have to do is make sure that's open. Because if someone gets stuck in the driveway, and our driveway is a hill, if someone gets stuck in that, and this happens all the time, and then they try to back down and they wind up in the ditch, now I have a big problem because I'm the one that's got to get them out of there, right? So I am learning how to deal with traffic on the farm now like I've never had to deal with before. And not only that, getting up the drive, but they got to get out of here too. So we've got a road that goes all the way around so people don't have to back up. And so that has to be kept open too. And, it's just been kind of a challenge with the snow. But I I spend time thinking about, okay, what am I going to do when things clear off? And I don't have to really even look too far. I really don't, because when I look at the weather, I think that today was the peak of ugliness as far as weather goes. Now in March, we're going to have some snow and we're going to have some blowing and stuff, but usually it's the temperature that makes things really difficult. So like tomorrow, the high today was 12. The high tomorrow is going to be 19, and then it goes steadily up from there to Sunday, which is going to be 32. And then Monday 35. Tuesday 36, Wednesday 39. Okay, so you can kind of see where we've hit the peak and now it's down the other side, because I remember when I first started doing this and I would be out there in this part of February and think, this sucks. I hate this. This is not what I wanted to do. But I remember I was riding with this old guy. He's the old guy that I got the pot off of, the scalding pot. He's long gone now. He was 90 then. And he says, well, don't worry. Spring's coming. Think about green grass because it's coming. And I'm like, yeah, right. But it is. And it is. And it's true that you get to the pinnacle of it and then it's kind of down the other side. And things get easier and easier, and you kind of forget about these tough days. And they have been kind of tough. They really have. They've been tough on everybody. The kids were not a lot of conversation at the lunch table today, but we've accomplished a lot. We have one more beef to slaughter, and no more pigs to do. We did the last two last week, and this time tomorrow they will be completely packaged and everything taken care of and the shop cleaned up. And then we're thinking about maybe Friday getting our last beef done. Friday's going to be 29, and then we're going to have cold nights, 12 to 28. It's good hanging weather. We'll have to see. I have to check on the morale of my troops. And I also got to see if I'm going to be able to get that beef up the hill too. I don't know at this point. I might see if I can get somebody else to run a plow down there and get it down to the ground for me. And that way I can, when we bring a beef up the hill, we shoot it down there and then we shackle onto its back legs and pull it up, drag it. And what that does is it puts weight on the back wheels of the tractor so they dig in. And if that didn't work, we would be in some deep doo-doo. I don't know exactly what we do at that point. I know it can be done if I was to get a neighbor that's got a four-wheel drive tractor. And it actually caused me to think today, I've told you guys that, no, I'm not really big on four-wheel drive tractors. I don't need all the extra equipment. But if our winters are going to trend back towards, now that Donald Trump is the president and global warming is over, and we trend back towards more snow, which is how it's supposed to be here. I mean, that's how it always was. I remember one time we got snow November 15th, and I remember it so well because I had just bought the Clearspan building and I had to unload it at the road, the truck that brought it, and we put it in the back of my Ford pickup, and I took one load up the hill and unloaded it where we thought we were going to put it up. This is really early. It's 20 years ago. And it's And then the next load went on the truck. I got it up here, parked the truck, went on to something else, and it snowed. And it snowed hard. And the truck was what I used for snow removal back then. And I never did take that second load of stuff out of the back of the truck. I never did until spring. And we didn't put the clear span up until that next spring. And luckily, we didn't put it where I thought I wanted to put it, because if we had, it would have been a soup, because we didn't know where water was going to settle in the spring. We didn't know. We hadn't been through it yet. So it's a good thing that that happened. But I remember that 15th of November, and we had snow the entire winter, lots of it too. And, you know, pushing snow is something that you got to do. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Let me go through and read here who all's with us. Not being a very good host. Andrew Fox is with us with McKenna. Abundant Living is with us. That's Jill. All right. Andrew says, burning through my home harvested hay with my bagger mower, but should be on track to make it halfway through March or further, depending on the weather. My bagger mower. You mean you're bagging it and keeping it for feed? I got to talk to you about that, because every time I pile it up, it always, you know, it starts to decompose. He says, I was looking for calves to do my custom grazing on other people's property to give them beef, but to also add beef to my freezer, but prices are outrageous. I'm glad I have pregnant heifers to still do it. Yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. Who knows why? Who knows why? I mean, I don't even want to say. It's just, it's too crazy to put theories out there. But calves are very expensive right now. And I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I'd like to say that they never come down, but they do. They do. There was a time here when I had farms calling me saying, do you want some bull calves? Come get them, because they couldn't sell them. You know, $10, you know. And I don't know. It was just like when I heard that, I thought, if somebody wants to give me something, I'm not sure if I want it, you know. And we had always been told that Holstein bull calves, they call them deacon calves, are no good for beef. And you hear it enough and you start to believe it, but it's not true. It's not true at all. There's little truth to that. Very little. I mean, they might take a little bit longer to feed out, but you know, you hear all the time the Holsteins don't do good on grass. Well, I've got 2 of them out there that are doing fantastic on grass and give us so much milk. So, yeah, if you can get calves cheap now, no matter what they are, I would get them. And if you have heifers, keep them and start your own herd. Now, I'm at the point right now where if I could find 2 cows to buy, almost in any stage of things, I would, in a perfect world with my magic wand, I would say, I want a cow that is going to freshen 3 days after she's here. That's what I want. And I want her to have another heifer, and I'd like her to be either a Guernsey or a Jersey. But you got to take what you can find. All over the place now, there's, like on Facebook, one of the gals that was here today, she was telling me, oh, I want to get a cow so bad, but my husband doesn't want us to. And I'm looking at them all the time. And I said, are you seeing them? And she says, yeah, I'll send them to you. And she sends it to me, and I'm seeing 3,500, 5,000, 6,000. You know, people want a lot of money for cows nowadays. And so sometimes you have to just settle for what you can find. But I'm at the point now where I've got more customers than I have milk. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And I'm exploring, uh, wealth management on the farm, all these things that you think about. Um, I'm exploring the thought process of borrowing money from the bank and buying some cows. And you do that when you buy a piece of equipment that's going to make you money right away. So you want that piece of equipment to pay the bank and the interest, but I need the equipment now. I don't want to wait and save up for it. And sometimes that makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Usually if it's the Corvette that you need, no, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But if let's say I found some really nice cows someplace and I got them, I would very quickly start making money with them and it would cover the payment on them. All right. So I brought it up in conversation today, and Jill didn't exactly say no. She didn't exactly, her body language wasn't. So maybe we're at the point where you can do that and cover, that expense. And maybe because they actually make more money than, like, let's say you got a cow and she's pregnant and she calves. Now you have the calf too. And calves are expensive, and we know that now. They're very expensive, no matter what it is. If it's a heifer calf, right on. I mean, a day is coming here when I reach my goal of milking 10 cows that we're going to have a surplus of heifers, of heifer calves. And, you can sell them. You can keep them for a year or whatever it is, 15 months, and get them inseminated and then checked. Yep, she's pregnant. And then she's worth more, a lot more. And plus she's socialized with my protocol here, so we go to great lengths to make sure that they are friendly and, fit in with the system, that a heifer like that will have gone through one grazing season and, something like that. So that's coming. That's coming. So that might make sense because let's say you pay $2,000 for a cow that's pregnant. And she calves, you immediately start milking her. That calf is worth $500 once it hits the ground. It really is. And if it's a heifer, ooh, now you're really in business. So, but that doesn't work for every situation. I got to say that. Now we're set up for it. We have our hay supply. We have our system of getting the hay in. If I run short, I know right where to get it. So I got that all lined out. The facilities, one or two more cows, we're not even going to notice it really. So not everybody is in the situation where they can do that, but I think I might be in that situation now. And it's not a bad idea to establish credit with a bank for things, So we have this credit union that we use, and they loaned us money on a car, and we paid it back, and then we bought the truck, and we're paying that back, and it's not a bad thing. It's a tool to use, but I do know people that are like, as soon as they knock down a payment, they're going to get another payment, and I don't know if that's smart. I think it needs to be used judiciously and carefully. And I really haven't used it. I haven't used it. I got a ton of equity and I've just never really wrung it out because I haven't wanted to. I wasn't sure enough about what I was doing, I guess. So anyway, let's see what we got here. All right. Michelle Dupree. Now, all I have to do is tip my head up a little bit like this. I can see it perfectly. Perfectly. We waited for an opening to join a herd share for a while and finally got in towards the beginning of last year. I wonder where you are, Michelle Dupree. I wonder what state you're in. Why don't you enlighten me? I know that a lot of the cows I see for sale, they're down south. They're in Missouri, Alabama, down there. Nice ones too. David Duncan's with us. He was checking on a cow for me. What's up, brother? Andrew, don't pile it dry on a tarp or in my hayloft. Thin to dry after drying is key. 2 years doing it. All right. So you got to let it dry out and then you're using it for feed, huh? That makes sense. David says, I have a friend who makes silage in 55-gallon food-grade drums with his grass clippings. That would be haylage or grasslage. You can feed it fresh, says Andrew, but I only mow my ditches or other property, so I dry it for winter use. Reach out, I'll send you videos. Well, why don't you write up a narrative about that and put it on the tribe? I mean, people would benefit greatly from that, I think. Private lender? Well, bank. So I don't know. Is that a private lender? It's private. Yeah, maybe things will change here with the new administration. You guys see that RFK was confirmed, and he's made some pretty bold statements out there. Pretty bold statements. The one that he made that set me back on my heels was he wants to get some of these chemicals that are being used outlawed. Yeah, and we all know the one he's talking about. The one that's doing the most damage is glyphosate. So we'll see. Now, wouldn't that change things around here? Really, it would change things. And also the immigration thing is going to change farming. This summer is going to be, I think, is going to be far different than what we've seen in the past. How much is my milk share? Ours went up this year to $120 per year and $9 per half gallon. Whoa! Our farmer is in Whitmore Lake. $120 a year and $9 per half gallon. That's $18 a gallon? Plus 120 on top of it? No. That's a lot. I mean, if that's what they're getting there, I guess that's what they're getting. We do $30 buy-in. That's a one-time deal. And then $45 a month. And that entitles you to a gallon a week. And that seems to work out pretty good. I know we could go to that comes to about $10 a gallon. I know we could go to 12 and get away with it, but we're not ready to do it at this point. And then we charge for delivery into Cadillac. So we're pretty happy with that, and it works for us. All right. And Michelle says, it's worth it to me because I'm still looking for property and I'm practicing my homesteading skills, and the farmer is an amazing resource for me as a teacher and mentor. Oh, there you go. There you go. If you're doing business with a guy, you kind of have the right to ask questions about things. And people that are doing business with me, I'll stop and talk to them. But if you're just calling me on the phone and you want info, click on the tab that says consulting. How about that? All right. She says, we're in Howell currently looking for property up north. Well, I tell you where you want to look, Michelle. I hope I never have to move because I'm driving people to this area, but the Leroy Tustin area. It's right in that sweet spot. It's close to 131. so you can get where you want to go. You can get south, and you can get north easy, and it's not that busy, so it's not that noisy. It's certain times of the day, there's semis, but it's not that noisy, and it's a good road. But the Tustin area, I think, is pretty nice. There's an Amish community down there, and it looks to me like they're starting to pull stakes and move. They just do that. They move into a community, and then one leaves, and then another one leaves, and it's not as cool as they thought it was. But I really like that area. You should maybe consider that. Our area is good too. McBain area is good, but it's a little expensive because of the industrial ag that's around here. They have driven land prices out of sight, so it's kind of tough. But over there in Tustin, it's not so bad. But then if you go too far south, you start getting into the Big Rapids area, and land prices are very high. If you go north of there, you can go north to a point, but then you start getting in the Traverse City area, and it's like the bedroom communities for Traverse City, and price of property is way high. And there's not a lot of open ground. And then you over where the Duncans live, that's over more in the central northern part of the state. And that's pretty good up there. There's some land up there. They get a lot more snow than we do. But yeah, I like it up there too. I do like it up there. I think if I moved and I said, well, I know where I'm going, they get two or three more feet of snow, I would say, well, I'm going to get smart about investing in some snow removal equipment. If I had a 4-wheel drive tractor with a cab on it, I wouldn't care. I'd throw in the tunes, and I would listen and plow snow in a heated cab. I wouldn't mind that. Oh, that sounds interesting, though, that you're practicing your homesteading skills. Yeah, don't wait till you have land to accumulate books and tools, and pay to get yourself educated. If there's people that are doing classes around you, or find out what you need to know. I'm glad you're here, because we talk about that quite a bit. Howell. We're in Howell. I'm not sure I know where Howell is. I've heard it many, many times, but I'm not sure. Come visit us sometime. Come for Seed Savers Day. That's when, and then you can meet all the heads here. All right, David Duncan says, sent you contact info just now. Okay. Well, I'm going to look at that, because you never know. Oh, I had a great find the other day. Great find. I was going past the co-op in town, and it's closing. The co-op is closing. They're just going to sell gas and pop and beer and lottery tickets, which is too bad. It's too bad. We got enough of those places around. The co-op was a place where you could get grain, and you could get milling done, and you could get gasoline and propane and all diesel fuel and all that stuff, and plus seed and all that stuff. And they're closing down. They got bought out by a big company and then resold to a bigger company. And anyway, I'm going past there the other day, and there was this machine sitting there, and it looked like somebody had set it out. No for sale sign on it, but it looked like it was for sale. So it looked like a small grain bin, probably 36 inches in diameter. It's got a cone that goes down to the bottom. And then on the top of it, there was a pulley wheel, and then a motor off to the side. So I stopped and I got out and looked at it. And what it is a seed mixer. So I guess when they would make a seed mix for somebody, they would put the ingredients in, turn it on. It's got an auger that goes up the middle of it, and it goes, and it brings everything up and mixes it inside of this vessel. And it's got legs on it, casters on it, and everything. really nice, old, but well taken care of, well maintained. Painted, spot painted, and you could tell it's lubricated and stuff. Jill's uncle used to work there. He worked there for 30 years. I bet you he worked on the thing. And so I couldn't get out of here that day because the road was drifted in and they hadn't plowed. So I called him and I said, "Is that for sale?" And it's just one of the girls that works there. And she said, "It is." I said, "Well, what do you want for it?" And she says, What would you offer for it?" And I said, "I'll give you $150 for it." And I'm thinking, there's no way. There's no way she's going to take that. The motor on the side is worth $150. It's an ag. It's a certain kind of motor it's step starts, and they're expensive. They're very expensive. And it's 110 too. And she said, "Let me check." And I'm thinking she's going to come back and she's going to say, "Well, no, we got to get at least $1,500 for it." She comes back and she says, "It's yours." And I was stunned. But I said, "My road is plugged right now." I gave her my name. I said, "I will be there as soon as I can. What's your name?" And she tells me her name. I said, "Okay, I'll be there to get it. But I am kind of plugged in right now, or else I'd be there in the next 15 minutes. She said, "Oh, yeah, no problem." So I went and I got it home. And my thought was I could load bread down it and it would chew it up and I'd get breadcrumbs out the other side. Well, it didn't work like that. It didn't. I got some breadcrumbs out the other side, but it doesn't take it in as quickly as I'd like to. So I got to break the bread down before it goes into the auger, right? So I got to come up with a system to do that, and I'm working on that. I have a hammer mill, and it works really good. And I just don't recall that I ever put bread through it before. I don't think I ever did, or I can't remember. But if I have the hammer mill running and I can just chuck bread down it, and it comes out, and then we auger it into the mixer, then I can put in, like pea meal for protein and kelp and mineral, so I can make a chicken feed out of it. And if I can make a chicken feed and I can feed all of my chickens for the summer, I'm right there. I just knocked down $6,000 right there. So I got all this bread. I got a lot of bread, and I'm trying to figure out how to turn that bread into something that I can use. I have more pig feed than I have pigs, and I've tried to give it away, right? No. I've tried to sell it. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. It's like it's so valuable because feed is so expensive, but maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the time of year, but I have not been able to move it. So if anybody hears this and you need feed, I let it go very reasonably. I'm not going to give it away anymore. I'm just not. I'll push it in a hole before I do that, because it seems like anytime I give it away, I get abused. I don't, and I don't want that anymore. So anyway, yeah, that was a really good find. Nice unit. Even if it didn't work for what I wanted it, there's so many good parts on it. All right, Andrew's saying $1,100 I paid for 2 dairy heifers, young, but I'm in the long game. I'm turning 30 this year, so we'll see how it all goes. Bought summer of 24. How young? Because that's $550 each. Yeah, I guess that's okay. That's okay. Because, you've got something now that is increasing in value. Of course, you got to do your part. You have to take care of them. And that means they got to be bedded every couple of days. They got to be watered when they're young. You want to be giving them warm water in the wintertime. You want to make sure they're getting feed, you should be coming and getting bread, Andrew. I don't know why you wouldn't. You're not that far away. Bread is great for heifers in the wintertime. Yeah, so if you do your part, by the time they're a full-fledged cow that's bred and milking, now you've got a valuable commodity right there. You've got a valuable commodity. And that way, you know, I know you're working a regular job, but then if you milk in the evening and then you have some way of moving that milk, now you've got a little extra income, you know, and it gets a little bigger, then all of a sudden you can't afford to go to work anymore, right? That's what happened to me. I just couldn't keep doing it. Okay, Dave Duncan says he texted me. I didn't hear it. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'll read this. This woman is a friend of mine who may have bred Jersey heifer due April 1st. I think. Charlie Little. All right. I'm going to be on it, man. I'm going to be on it. Okay. Michelle says, I know. What do you know? You know, you're in good company, Michelle, because there's more people. I can't really tell from your thumbnail. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're about I'd say you're probably 27. There's more people in your age group that are getting into small farms. And it can be a lifelong, well, we've been doing it for 20 years and we really don't plan on switching to anything else unless it's, you know, shrimping. You know, if I get that shrimp boat that I've been thinking about down in the Gulf of America. Yeah. Isn't that funny? You know, there's no reason to be in the doldrums with the show that we are watching right now in front of us. It is absolutely amazing to see what is happening in 3 weeks of the Trump presidency. And when I get done tonight with you guys, I get to go watch his interview with Elon and Sean Hannity. I'm not a big Sean Hannity guy, but I just want to hear what these guys have to say because they are ripping and stripping. It is really something to see. Has anybody seen all the properties for sale in and around Washington, D.C.? It's incredible. People are moving because their jobs are going away. All these government bureaucrats that were collecting a paycheck and not doing anything besides terrorizing citizens. Right? I hope it happens in Lansing. And I have some input on that. I haven't heard much. I just know how warfare is. And the bureaucrats, the last time I heard of a bureaucrat bothering somebody was Jessica Rouser. We talked about that. She's got a small herd of dairy animals, dairy cows, and I think it was my recommendation. I think might have been. Anyway, she's doing what we're doing. They built a store right on their farm. She stays home. She's a stay-at-home mom. Her husband works from home. And they want to get into farming. I met her and her husband at a homestead hog harvest class that we did down at the Clerics. It's got to be 2 years ago. 1, 2, maybe 3. And, you know, we've just seen them off and on at different things. And she's checked with me on a couple things. I've talked with her on the phone a couple times. And, yeah, she was in her store working, you know, trying to provide for her families and her family. And in comes a state car, wants to have a word with her that somebody complained. And then, of course, they're right there when there's a complaint, you know. Liars, stinking liars. And she's, I think she's half Korean. And she's, you know, she's got a fierce personality, right? I don't know if fierce is it, but forceful, intentional. Yeah. Very nice, but intentional, but got that mother bear kind of like a mousetrap that's set, you know, like don't stick your finger in there type. That's how I take it, and so I can just imagine her meeting that individual before he got out of his car, with her hands on her hips, saying, "What do you want?" And then reading him the riot act. You're not welcome here. I didn't call for you. You have no business on this property. It's private property. What do you want? And he was quite taken aback. But that's the last time anything like that's happened that I know of. And a lot of those things that happen, I get wind of them. And I think that there's a storm on the horizon for those people, those types of people, that bureaucrat class that thinks they're smarter than everybody because they've got some BS education, Bachelor of Streisand education from the university. University is going to get tore up by this Doge too. They're really going to be hurting. But I think there's a reckoning coming because they have been problematic to citizens for quite a while now, and they've stood in the way of small farming at every level. That's all I can say. I mean, they don't stand in my way, but people don't have the same life experiences as I've had. So it's kind of hard to know how to navigate that. But now with the new administration, they are dismantling the USDA. Like, we really don't need all of you. Why are you all here? You grow in your numbers every year. And what do you actually accomplish? Agriculture is a mess in this country. Why do we need you? All we hear is complaints from people about you harassing farmers. So I would bet, I like I said, I have not heard anything, but I would bet that if you are a bureaucrat at the state level, you're kind of want to fade into the woodwork and think about, well, what happens if Doge comes to my state, which really should. It really should, because there's so much waste. All of the money that we pay to these people in taxes, and what do they do with it? What do they do with it? For me, it's like, and I'm on agricultural taxes, it's like $2,200 a year I got to give them. What do they do with it? That's a lot of money. My neighbor, he's on 2 acres. He pays more than I do because he doesn't get the ag exemption like I do. He's on 2 acres, 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. Yeah, it's insanity. And I think it is, I don't know, we'll see. A lot of Americans are kind of upset about that. I certainly am. It'd be one thing if they took tax money from us, because we don't give it to them. They extort it from us. If it went to something decent, if you drive around Michigan right now, you will see it is in the state of despair. Even in the cities, they are falling down. Bridges, roads, everything. It's a mess. So where's that money go? What are you guys doing with that money other than hiring more bureaucrats, more useless government weenies? Yeah, so I think a reckoning is coming. We've kind of known it for a while. Early on, I'd say 17, 18. When did we start this show anyway? Does anybody know? I don't really remember. But I was a big Q guy, and it's before the mainstream media got a hold of it and then kind of made anybody that even thought Q could be relevant, made you seem like a conspiracy theorist, and a wacko. Probably don't take vaccines, probably have babies at home and things like that. Probably eat your own food, kill your own animals. One of those people. They really did a number on demonizing the self-sufficiency movement. They called you a prepper, probably have machine guns, right? And we're not feeling that way anymore. And come to find out, it never was QAnon. That's what they named it to, so they could make fun of it. It was just Q, and it was just a series of drops, series of paragraphs that would come out. And it caught my idea because it looked like in military intelligence to me, because some of them made absolutely no sense to me. So I took that as, well, it's not for me. But some of them made very good sense. And I kind of looked at it from the point of view of the way things ought to be, in a sane society. So I've known this for a long time, but the managerial class of people, they do insane things and they tell you, oh, it's normal. It's normal. Bruce Jenner puts a dress on and they put him on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. Oh, that's normal. It's courageous. And I wouldn't buy it. And I told you guys, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. I'm just not. That's a bridge too far. That's way too weird. I mean, they started it with, well, I got to be careful with that because some of that stuff was normalized for so many years that when you say that ain't normal, that ain't right, then you get called things, right? So I'll just leave it alone. But all you have to do is in your mind back up on the weirdness, And now we're in 2024, and if a 4-year-old kid thinks he's a girl, well, you should get him right down to the surgeon and get that thing removed if he thinks he's a girl, and they're telling you, well, that's healthcare. No, I'm not buying it. And there's been so much stuff like that that's been jammed down our throat. And it was kind of a weird scenario, like to come out and say things about, say, like COVID-19. I got dinged on this channel just for saying that and saying that, I don't know about this. This smells to me. I got dinged. I got thrown off for, I don't know. I got strike 2 or something like that. I think that's kind of over. It seems like you can say whatever you want. I think that's what I've heard. But even back then to say, I don't know about this. You were told, trust the science. I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. And now we see that now we're going to have congressional hearings on COVID-19. Well, that wouldn't have happened a year ago. So things are changing very quickly. This is almost like, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know. It's coming so fast that the mainstream media, which I believe is part of the problem. I mean, this goes way back. I'm 64. I was 3 years old when JFK was murdered, but I remember it. I remember my mother crying, right? And just from the things that I know about, it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. And even back then, they held up like a World War I bolt action rifle. I think it's a Mannlicher Carcano. And supposedly this guy shot 3 rounds offhand. That means he was not on a rest. At a moving target and connected with 2 of the rounds. And it was a long shot. It was over 300 yards at a moving target. Very difficult to do. Just with what I know, And we have the best, most accurate guns known now, with very complex optics on them. And it's still a tough shot. and it didn't seem right then. And then mysteriously, he was murdered a few days later by another guy, and then that guy died in prison of cancer. Right. So the whole thing stunk, but they came out with the Warren report. It was all done in secrecy. And the mainstream media said, yep, it's a done deal. It was Lee Harvey did it. And then if you in mixed company say, well, I don't think so. Oh, really? You don't think so? So the Warren report, and it was on the news, and you don't think so? So people wind up just keeping that stuff to themselves. I don't think so. It's just, it doesn't look right. And then we had, just in my time, we had the Mora building was blown up. We had the Waco, Texas incident. We had Ruby Ridge, those things. If you look into those, the stories just don't add up. It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense what they're saying. If you know human nature and you know the nature of the way some of those things work, especially, I think the easiest one to figure out is the Mora building when that was blown up, supposedly a truck bomb, supposedly fertilizer, and yet it shattered concrete columns on the front of the building that were in open air, but then across the street, the windows on the bank were still intact. That's not the way explosives work. You know, explosion is going to go in the direction of the least resistance. But in this case, it went right after those columns and shattered the front of that building, and it shattered it. So that indicates that it was a high frequency explosive. That's not fertilizer. Fertilizer is a low frequency. It's like a boom. It's a pushing charge. A high frequency explosive is like a plastic explosive or a Simtex, something like that. And that's such high frequency that it shatters. So anyway, it didn't look right from the get-go, but there was a general in the Air Force at the time that came out and said, this is not what happened. The official report is bogus. That is not how explosives work. And he was relieved, right? The narrative is what happened. Repeat after me. Weapons of mass destruction. Repeat after me. And then they joke about it. The managerial class, they joke about it. Maybe we're seeing the end of that. Maybe we're going to get back to a strong nation. Oh, I had a really good quote that came out of, it was such a good quote that I would excuse myself for a minute and go get the book that I'm reading, because I want to say this to you at this point. But I want this quote to be correct. So excuse me for just a second. All right, I'm back. I've told you guys about this book. The guy gave this to me a few years ago. It's available. I think Beth got it. Founding Gardeners. I'm on my second time through it. And it is about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and James Madison. And I definitely have a favorite president. I definitely, and I won't tell you who it is. But if you were ever to read this book and you knew me, I think you'd figure out who it was. But our founding fathers were heavily involved in agriculture in their lives before public life, before the Revolutionary War. And then when the Revolutionary War was over, they were the ones that had to structure the government that we have now. They were the writers of the Constitution, and it goes through their experiences and helps you to understand why the Constitution was written the way it was. And there's a couple of quotes that I've come across in here that I just think are really good. Okay, this was Thomas Jefferson said this. He said, agriculture, or in quotation, agriculture, Jefferson wrote that summer, was the surest road to affluence and best preservative of morals. I really like that. And if we took that apart, these guys used words way better than we do. Too many times in our culture, words are interchanged. Like I listened to a podcast the other day with a fairly famous, a famous farmer in the United States. But he used the words law and regulation interchangeably. And that's completely incorrect. Completely. In no way is that correct. There's no way you can justify doing that. If you break a regulation, okay. So somebody made a regulation. I broke it. What are you going to do? Send me to jail? The regulation police going to come get me? But you break a law, and there's a penalty for that. And yes, law enforcement will come get you. And I hope they do. Because most of our laws are good. Most. Some are not so good. Some. There's some. And usually the ones that are not good are never prosecuted. There's another quote in here, and I should have dog-eared it. But one of the founding fathers was quoted as saying there's only three ways. Only three ways. Oh, here it is right here. It was Franklin. Franklin listed in 1769 the three ways by which a nation might acquire wealth. Three ways. This is Benjamin Franklin we're talking now. And gave his opinion on each. The first is by war. This is robbery. Right? To the spoils go, to the victor go the spoils. The second, by commerce, which is generally cheating. How about that? The third, by agriculture, the only honest way. I think I misquoted that. I think I said that was Thomas Jefferson, but that was Benjamin Franklin that said that. And these guys were the smartest, they were the most accomplished. They were the most dedicated to the cause, put everything on the line for this country. If that's the way it went. If not, it's a good story. And they thought that agriculture was the way to go. And as you make your way through this book, you find that the only place that they wanted to be was at their farms. They were called away for war. George Washington, obviously, like he had plenty of things to do. But when the war was over, boom, he was right back at Mount Vernon. In this book, it says that as he was watching 350 British warships approaching his position in New York Harbor, he was penning a letter to his farm manager at the time because he could see the end of the war. He could see the end of that whole thing. And the war, we've been kind of led to believe that it was all about guns. It culminated there. The king got irritated with the colonists and he says, that's it. Take their guns, take their means of resistance. And, British soldiers marched through Lexington. There was some deaths there, on towards Concord. And their whole mission was to relieve the colonists of their weapons, their powder and shot. And we know what happened. After they had gone through Lexington, and they were brutal. They were brutal the way they killed 2 or 3 guys there. Then on towards Concord. But by the time they got there, Paul Revere had ridden ahead and said, the British are coming, the British are coming. And by that time, this was a long time that they'd lived under British rule. The colonists had had enough. And when they faced off at Concord Bridge, the fighting was fierce, and 350 British regulars, and I guess there was some Hessians in there too, were dead. All the way back to Boston. They chased them all the way back to Boston, reloading and shooting. And the British weren't used to that type of warfare, so they would fire and then they'd move. And it was the colonists shot the officers. They shot the officers, the guys on the horses. You're not supposed to shoot them. Friggin' A, you shoot them first. And that's what they did. So it was the onset of guerrilla warfare, and that's where we're at now as far as warfare goes. But it didn't start off with taking guns. It started off by the King of England did not really want the colonists to be self-sufficient. He wanted the colonists to send the raw materials back across. The raw materials would be processed and then sent back and sold to bolster his manufacturing machine. And little by little, the colonists were saying, I can make shoes. I'll make shoes. I send for a pair of shoes. 6 months later, they send me the wrong size. So he says, I'll make my own shoes. And so they started doing for themselves. And then the king said, well, if you're going to do for yourselves, we're going to tax you on that. And the rest is history. Wait a minute. You're taxing us and we don't have representation in England. So that's where that went. But, we see things like that now, actually, in the United States. We have, I think what we're going through right now is another revolution. There's a thing that happened during that time called the Stamp Act, and the King of England put a tax on any paper goods. So any writing paper, newspapers, playing cards had to have a stamp on it. And the colonists they made their own. They started building printing presses and circulating information. The king wanted to keep a handle on that, did not want these colonists getting out of hand. And I think we've kind of seen the same thing in just the short time that we've been talking. When we first started talking on this channel, people were deathly afraid of not having some sort of certification, some sort of stamp from the Department of Agriculture, whether it's a state agriculture or federal, USDA or MDA, whatever state you live in. And they've come to realize that we don't need them to authorize us to do squat. Matter of fact, you can't stop us from doing squat. Now, they can hold our products from going in like a retail store if it doesn't have what on there? Their stamp. MDA, USDA. So we just say, we won't sell it there. We'll sell it amongst ourselves. And that's what we're doing. And our community is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's nothing they can do. Now that we know that they have no authority on private property, absolutely none. They cannot control what we do. We're American citizens. We're governed under the United States Constitution. And they take an oath to that Constitution. So when they try to tell you, well, you can have 4 hens, but you can't have a rooster, what are they referencing? And why should you even listen to them? Why should you even give it a second of thought? I was at a thing the other day. My son was getting promoted to lieutenant in his fire department. And so they were going to do a pin-on ceremony. You know, they're going to put his emblems on his uniform. And his wife called and said, "Hey, you want to come?" And I said, yeah, I want to come. So we went there. It was a township meeting. So it's just this township, right? It's not the county. It's just a township. And it happens to be a township that has quite a bit of waterfront property on some lakes that are over in that neck of the woods. Nice lakes. And, you know, lakes have houses on them. And so people own the houses. They don't live there. They go and stay there for 2 weeks in the summer, and then they rent it the rest of the time. But some of the people who live there all the time, they don't like it because they're getting people that come from down south, you know, that are loud and, you know, whatever. They're rambunctious and they're there to water ski and have fun and stuff. And the people that live there, they don't like it. So they went to the township and caused a fuss. And I was sitting there, and the township supervisor is trying to hold this thing together, saying that, well, we're protecting the people who come to stay by going through a certification process. So if you want to rent your property out, you got to come to us, the township, and ask for permission, and we will certify you. We'll give you a list of rules, do's, don'ts, and otherwise. Make sure you have a fire inspection. Make sure you have insurance. Make sure you are up to speed with all your permits. And I'm just sitting there thinking, you know, I don't live in this township and I don't want to stir it up during my son's thing. But if I was there, I would have said, so tell me, township supervisor, what is the meaning of private property? Do you know? Do you know? Did you take an oath to protect and defend the constitutional rights of the people of this fine township? Yes or no? Yes? I'd like you to open up the Fifth Amendment and read that aloud, please. I mean, you might not like it if somebody's renting a house next to your home. You might not like it. I probably wouldn't like it either. However, the person that's renting that home, it is their home. They can rent it if they want. They do not have to ask permission from some stinking township supervisor and township board. And of course, none of the people that were opposed to it were there. So it was all just the Karen class that was, yeah, we need to do this. This will be good for everybody. And I just stayed out of it. But I don't know. There's all kinds of things like that that happen in township meetings, like blight. You know, somebody's got a yard that they don't think looks quite right. And they say, we need to have an ordinance, a blight ordinance. Well, what is blight? It's subjective. You might think that lazy boy that I got out on the front porch, that my dog sleeps on, you might think that's blight, but I happen to like it. And guess what? My property, and my property is protected under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. So go away. Go to hell, right? And I mean that carries over onto most things. The Fifth Amendment says that our life, our liberty, and our property, which is our process, is protected under the due process of law. So what that means is, if you're involved in a process, let's say your process is you want 10 chickens. Well, the township says you can only have 4. Yeah, but see, my process is 10 because that's what I want. And last time I checked, I'm a free man. I don't work for the township. The township doesn't write my checks, doesn't pay me. Matter of fact, it's the other way around. They're the servant. But things have gotten upside down. And now anybody who works for any form of government is seen as an arm of the king. But that's not how our system really works. But it goes that way if you don't resist, if you don't know your rights and exercise your rights. It winds up going that way. You have a tendency to say, well, I guess I don't really need a rooster, so I'll just get by with 4. No, that's not what you need to do. That's not what you need to do. You need to exercise your rights to the fullest extent. Your rights come from your creator. First Amendment, the right to free speech. That's what we're doing right now. It's free speech. This doesn't work if you're in Yemen. I can't go on the internet and just start talking about what I want to talk about. It has to be okayed by the township. The right to own and bear arms. That is so huge. So huge. Why do you think that the communist left wants us disarmed? Why do you think the King of England wanted the colonists disarmed? Because they resist. Well, you can't resist against people who are armed if you're not. Ask the Jews about that. You cannot resist. But if you're armed just as good as they are, then you can resist. Actually, you won't have to, because they're going to say, I don't know if this is a good idea. You might have a gun in there, And that's the whole point. It's a balance of power, right? In this country, the citizenry has the power. Look what just happened in the election. It was the citizenry that did that. They'd had enough. And when it comes to what we're doing, small farms and homesteading, things like that, and the processes that we want to do, whether it's making cheese, butchering cows, getting eggs, having laying chickens, having a garden, and then you take the stuff out of the garden, you want to make salsa out of it, and you want to sell it to your neighbor. Oh, no, you can't sell food, not without permission. See, we've been trained to that place. We've been trained to there. But you would not hesitate an instant to sell a puppy to your next door neighbor, or a car to your neighbor, or anything else. But if it's salsa, if it's food, we better check. I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get in trouble. Trouble. What is trouble? Trouble is when you have the handcuffs on. Then you're in trouble. But up until then, you're not in trouble. Maybe when you're in grade school and you're sitting at the principal's office, maybe. But even there, they can't shoot you. They can't keep you overnight. They can't withhold food. They can't take your birthday away. you're not really in trouble. You're just a kid and you're scared. We need to grow up, right? We need to grow up. I don't want to get in trouble. You're in trouble when the handcuffs are on and you're in a cruiser and then you're in a jail cell. That's when you're in trouble. If you don't do criminal things, that can't happen to you. Or I shouldn't say it can't happen to you, because it does. It does. Mistakes get made, and there are abusive law enforcement types. Not many, not really that many. But you can't blame them, because citizens are abusive of them. We should respect the fact that they are enforcing laws that are good laws that protect us, like what's going on right now with all the illegals on their way home. That is a dangerous situation, but you don't know that until it touches you, and it has not touched me, and I'm glad it hasn't, and I hope it never does. But there are people that that has touched, and that's an illegal situation. You come into the country illegally, you're in a criminal status, you're going home. But I wonder what's going to happen to people that employ them and that have kept them on. That's what I wonder. That's what I wonder. That could get dicey for them. It's not me. I never did it. I was new. That's illegal to hire people that are not citizens, that are here illegally. They stole their way into my country, and they are sucking up the resources of my country. I don't like that. I want them to go home. Every last one. And you see the mainstream freaking out right now. Well, these guys aren't murderers. They're still criminals. They're here illegally. That's criminal. You got to go. It'd be like somebody comes on your property and you ask them to leave and they won't. And they're just going to kick their feet up on your couch and stay. Well, are you going to say, well, I mean, political asylum, be human, be a human about it, be humane? No. You're going to call the cops and get them removed. But somehow that doesn't work with the left. I don't know why exactly. I think that they're just trained to anything that is right, they don't want to do. They don't want to do. My home state, I saw this thing yesterday. I couldn't believe it. My home state, I'm from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. And the big city where we used to go to get in trouble was called Worcester, spelled Worcester. But if you're from there, you call it Worcester. If you're from there, you call it Worcester. And the good people of Worcester, Massachusetts, want to deem Worcester a transsexual sanctuary city. And they had 25 of them that got up about how deathly afraid they are and that the city needs to protect them. And half of them looked like they were going to a masquerade party. They had purple hair and, they just look like freaks, just freaks. And it was laughable if it wasn't for the fact that they were serious. And they actually had audience in front of people that were saying, maybe we should consider this. Maybe these people are human too. Maybe we should, it's like civil rights. It was the craziest thing you ever saw. But, I don't know. There's lots of crazy things. But anyway, I highly recommend this book, and it's given me a lot of insight as to what is going on right now and the type of society that our founding fathers thought that we should have. They did not want this to be a merchant class society. They wanted it to be a society of people who produced, right? All these clowns that are losing their jobs right now because of what Doge is doing, they were taking a paycheck for years and years and years and did nothing for it. They produced nothing. And so where'd that money come from? The credit card, national debt. So they've been living off of that. And now these poor people are going to be turned out into the cold, basically. No skills, no work ethic, just, office doctrine. That's what they know. And I'm glad that it's not me. I'm glad it's not me. I'm glad I'm who I am and that I'm into working and I'm into producing and I'm into, innovation and things like that. I'm really glad to be that guy now. I'm glad I didn't fall into the bureaucrat class. It is very, very easy to do that. When I look back at all the choices I had when I was getting out of high school, and I got accepted into colleges that I visited, and honestly, they creeped me out. I went and I stayed at colleges for like a weekend or something like that, and it was just, this is not what I want to do. These are not the people that I want to become like. And I went the route that I went, and I went to technical school, and I went on to go to college later, but that was when I was in the military, and it was different. It's not like a university, but I wanted to produce. I like producing. I like to see. I'm a lot like these guys. I mean, they were really into seeing what was produced. It's too bad if you ever go to Mount Vernon down in Washington. DEI has swept that place, and they focus your attention on the slaves. And George Washington, yeah, he's a good guy, and look at the innovation around here, but he was a slave owner. Don't you ever forget that. And they make such a big deal out of it. But then you find out that, well, there was only 2 of them that ever left there, that ever ran away. Most slaves wanted to work there because they got a fair return for their work. Like, he didn't just whip them all day, he didn't do that. Like, they worked there, and if they weren't there, they would have to be someplace. They can't just go live in the woods. He couldn't live in the woods. They all had to produce, and he gave freedom to his slaves upon his death, but they went and applied at other plantations. They tried to stay together as families and go get work someplace else, because just because you're free doesn't mean you got a job and you can make a living. So, and I'm not saying that slavery was a good thing. It definitely wasn't. But I just think they make such a big deal out of it and kind of make it seem like it was just always brutal. He loved the people that worked with him. He had them, they were there for his entire life, He never whipped a slave. Well, there's no accounts of it anyway. Anyway, let's see if there's any more information on here that I should. Heavy bred Jersey heifer. Okay. Heavy. Michelle says, thank you for the tips. We are looking everywhere north of 10, but prices are. Hey, I heard something a while back, and you hear a lot of things, but every now and then something, you hear it and you say, I think that guy knows something. And this guy, I've taken his advice on other things, and he said, don't do anything, don't buy anything until after April 15th. Okay. I'd like to know what you're seeing for prices out there per acre. Okay, so I know you, Michelle. We saw you at the Mitten Homesteaders Conference. We joined the School of Technical Skills as lifetime members, doing everything I can to learn and practice. Good for you. You won't go wrong. I am going there again this year. Yes, indeed. I kind of thought that I was just going to be speaking there again. I don't know. I see Mina all often, and I just thought she knew that. Oh yeah, wherever you want me to speak, whatever you want, I'll do. And I said I'm coming, but then I had some people over here to dinner, and they said, "Oh, they came out with a speaker list. I didn't see you on there." And I said, "Oops, maybe I should have called her and gotten a confirmation or something." And so I called her, and she said, "No, I got everybody I need. I thought maybe you didn't really want to speak this time." And I guess that's the way it goes. I said, "No, it's okay. I'm coming anyway. I want to be there and hang around with everybody and all that." And so she called me, I think, a week or two later, and she said, "Would you mind coming and just giving sort of like an inspirational talk?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do that because I'm going anyway. I got a project I'm working on. Maybe I can show you." Maybe. Yeah, there it is. Okay. My phone's plugged in. How's that look? There she is. I got to figure out a name for her. Does it look like a her or a him? Or a them or they? But that is a 1976 motorhome. It's a Ford chassis. Don't ask me what engine's in it. I don't know. It's a V8. I didn't look at it close enough. I should know, but I don't. So it's pretty old, but no leaks. It was taken care of. We think whoever had it kept it under something. And the paint on the cab it's got a little bit of just surface rust, but there's no rust through. And it's only got 70,000 miles on it. And I got a whale of a deal. I got it from Spears Auto. So I got a whale of a deal on it. I cannot wait to get it here to start going through it and fixing it up. But that's what I'm going to be taking down to the Mitten Homestead. So by the time you see it, I'm going to have a fresh coat of paint on it. And I'm going to have a new set of tires on it, probably. All the brakes will be working. I'm going to go through it. I won't have to do any engine work because those Ford V8s, doesn't matter how old they are, so long as the miles aren't crazy, they keep running. And it's got shag carpet in it. Yeah. And it's still in good shape. Still in good shape. It's that real nice, that shag color, Dave. You know what I'm talking about. It's orange and brown and light brown. And the shag is about that long. It's just cool. So cool. Got an awning that comes down off the side. It's got a little deck on the back of it. I think I can put my motorcycle up on the back of it. So when I go someplace, I'll have wheels to go exploring. Yeah, I cannot wait. Me and Joel have been wanting to do something like that for a long time. Yeah, the chipper shredder is it's good, but the throat on it is too small. The throat is like this. So if you put a loaf of bread in there and you line it up, it'll go through. But it's got to be lined up. So you can't just dump a load in there from the loader. It won't work. It just won't work. So it's going to have to be a hammer mill. Open the bread on the ground to dry and use the loader to load it 3 days later. Yeah. You know, I think a better way to do that would be to put out sheets of steel, dark colored steel in the sun. It dries fast. Oh, Andrew, I'm 6 hours away. Wish I lived closer. I vacation near you for salmon run, but I definitely take two in totes full on seed day. I just got to get a day off. Okay. Michelle, you don't have to be that kind. LOL. That picture, I was 45 ish. Well, you're always careful with that. And I'd say you probably go about 125 pounds, don't you? I know what I'm doing. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Guess a woman's age, you always knock off a couple decades. You look like you could be 27. I don't know. These thumbnails aren't real big. Oh, there we go. Pretty though. Christmas every day. Right on, brother. The government is killing it. So happy for draining the swamp and reducing spending. Yeah. Thanks for staying late. Always appreciate your time. She looks like Dolores. Scott Sano says, you look like Dolores. My father's airplane. My father was a B-17 engineer. Flew over Germany. His airplane was called Deliverin' Dolores. I still have a picture of it. And it was his pilot's wife's name was Dolores, and she was getting ready to have a baby. So it's got this real cool looking woman with a kind of sheer stuff on and pregnant. It varies, obviously, but over the past 2 years, I was seeing a median about 3,000 an acre for larger 20 plus acre parcels. I was getting discouraged and not really looking the past few months. You know what you wanted to look for, Michelle? Honestly. Look for a bigger parcel, a 20 acre. Oh, 20 plus, you say there. But a lot of people, you know how you get into livestock and I'll get goats because you think smaller is a good place to start. If you find an 80 or a 120 or something like that, and it's all going for about 3,000, that's good. That's good. You can get a loan on that. But then if it's agricultural land, especially if it's already in something, let's say it's in hay or it's plowed, you can rent it. And that will help you with the payment. And then you can just take what you want. You don't have to, I need to buy a little bit more land. If you've got 120 acres and your homestead, you really only need 20, the rest of it is making you money. It's making you money. Yeah. Oh, Fanny from the song the band sang, The Weight. Take a load off Fanny. What? All right. We're 2 hours. All right. I'm going to get going. Appreciate everybody coming by. There is no consulting call tomorrow night. We went last week. We're going every other week, and it seems to be working out good. So if it ain't broke, we ain't going to fix it. I'm going to get going. I appreciate everybody. Keep your head on a swivel for all the new things that are coming. If the playing field is leveled up and small farms can get loans from USDA at 1.5%, things will change. And that is what administrators do. So our new administrator has got to see the unfairness of what's going on. So we'll see. We'll see you guys. Good night. Remember, anyone can farm.